Every story has rules. Demon Slayer has a lot of them. Breathing styles take years to master. Hashira are the strongest swordsmen alive. Demons heal almost anything. The Demon King cannot be killed by normal humans. These are the lines the whole series is built on, and almost every fight you watch is shaped by them in some way. And then there is Yoriichi Tsugikuni. He is the one character who does not fit inside any of those rules. He was born already past them. He created the system the rest of the show runs on, then walked through it like the system did not apply to him. Hashira look at him and feel small. Demons hear his name and shake. Even the Demon King himself spent the rest of his life running from the memory of one fight with him. Welcome to Bashiva. This is the story of how one man bent the entire power system of Demon Slayer until it almost cracked in half, and how the show still feels his weight 500 years after he is gone. A boy who beat a trained swordsman the first time he held a blade. Before any of the legend, there is just a quiet child. Yoriichi was born during the Sengoku era in Japan, almost 500 years before the main story begins. He had a twin brother named Michikatsu. Twins were thought of as bad luck back then, and Yoriichi was also born with a strange red mark on his forehead. His father wanted him gone. His mother stepped in and saved his life. For a long time, his family thought he could not even hear. He barely spoke. He sat by himself. People assumed he was slow, or empty, or broken in some way. He was actually none of those things. He was just a calm child who did not have much to say. The moment everything changed is one of the strangest scenes in the whole backstory. A sword instructor came to teach his older brother. Yoriichi watched, picked up a wooden sword for the first time in his life, and was told the basics of how to stand and how to hold it. That was all the instruction he ever got. Then he stepped forward and beat the trained adult so badly that the man passed out, with marks all over his body from hits nobody could even see land. He was 7 years old. He had never trained a single day. The man teaching his brother for years could not touch him. That scene is the first crack in the rules of the show, because in Demon Slayer, strength is supposed to come from years of pain. Tanjiro trains for almost 2 years just to pass the entry test. Hashira spend their whole lives sharpening one craft. Yoriichi skipped all of it. He did not earn his power the way the system says you have to. He simply had it, the day he was born. And what he did next made every other swordsman in history look like they were practicing a copy of something he made by accident. The man who invented the power system everyone else uses. Here is the part that quietly does the most damage to the show's rules. Every breathing style you have ever seen in Demon Slayer comes from him. Water breathing, which Giyu and Tanjiro use. Flame breathing, the one Rengoku is famous for. Thunder breathing, the one Zenitsu uses. Wind breathing, the one Sanemi uses. Stone breathing, the one Gyomei uses. All 5 of those are not separate inventions by 5 different geniuses across history. They are all watered-down versions of one thing Yoriichi made first, called sun breathing. He created sun breathing on his own. Then he tried to teach it to other Demon Slayers so they could fight on his level. None of them could do it. Their bodies were not built for it. So instead of giving up, he sat with each student, looked at what they were good at, and changed his own style to fit them. From those changes, the 5 basic breathing styles were born. The first generation of Hashira learned from him directly. Think about what that means for a second. Every single Hashira in the modern story, the strongest swordsman the Demon Slayer Corps has, are using a leftover piece of one man's work. The whole power ladder of the series is just the bottom rungs of a ladder Yoriichi already climbed all the way to the top of by himself. The Hashira are not the peak, they are the echo. And the part that really tilts things is this. Yoriichi was so good that even his brother, who became the strongest demon swordsman in history under the name Kokushibo, could not learn sun breathing properly either. He had to make his own style called moon breathing just to keep up. The strongest demon in the 12 Kizuki, the one nobody in the current era can match, is using a knockoff of his little brother's homework. That is already a lot. But the rules of the show have one more layer he ripped through, and it was the layer everyone thought could not be touched. The mark that was supposed to be earned. There is a thing in Demon Slayer called the Demon Slayer mark. When a swordsman trains hard enough and pushes their body past a certain point, a strange, tattoo-like pattern shows up on their skin. It makes them stronger, faster, and sharper in every way. It is treated as a near miracle. Most slayers in history never get one. The Hashira in the main story have to almost die in training before theirs starts to show. There is also a heavy price attached to it. People who get the mark usually die very young. 25 years old is the cutoff most of them do not pass. It is a deal. You get incredible strength, and you give back most of your life. Yoriichi was born with the mark already on his face. He did not train for it. He did not bleed for it. He did not have to push his body to the edge of death to wake it up. It was sitting on his forehead the day he was born, the same red flame shape that scared his father into wanting him killed. He was the first person in the entire history of the world to have it, and every other marked slayer who came after him was just catching up to something he already had as a baby. And the price that kills everyone else? It did not apply to him either. While other mark holders died before they hit 30, Yoriichi lived to about 85 years old. The deal that nobody else could escape simply did not bind him. The rule was real for everybody else, and a suggestion for him. It is hard to even call this a power level at this point. It is closer to the show quietly admitting that one character exists outside the math the rest of the cast has to do. And as wild as all of this already sounds, none of it is the moment that made the Demon King himself spend 1,000 years afraid of a dead man. The day he almost killed Muzan in a bamboo forest. This is the fight that breaks the show in half. Muzan Kibutsuji is the final boss of Demon Slayer. He has lived for over 1,000 years. He has killed countless demon slayers. He cannot be hurt by sunlight, only because he hides from it. And outside of that one weakness, he is treated as basically untouchable by any normal human. The entire main story is the Demon Slayer Corps slowly trying to build a team strong enough to take him down. 500 years before any of that, Yoriichi met him alone in a bamboo forest, and almost finished the whole series before it started. By using his ability to see inside a living body, Yoriichi figured out something nobody else ever knew about Muzan. The Demon King has 7 hearts and 5 brains, and they all move around inside him so they cannot be hit at the same time. That is 12 targets, all shifting. For any normal swordsman, this is a death sentence. You cannot cut through 12 moving organs before the body heals. So in the middle of the fight, on the spot, Yoriichi made a brand new attack. He took the 12 forms of sun breathing he already had and chained them all together into one non-stop motion called the 13th form. 12 attacks for 12 organs, performed faster than Muzan could react, in a single connected sequence. He invented this in the middle of swinging his sword. That is how fast his mind worked. He cut through Muzan, every heart, every brain, all of it. Muzan could not regenerate. He was holding his own head onto his neck with his arm, and it would not reattach. He was as close to dead as he had ever been in 1,000 years of life. And it was happening to him because of one man with a sword. Then Muzan did something nobody saw coming. He blew his own body apart into 1,800 tiny pieces in pure panic, hoping at least some of them could escape. Yoriichi reacted instantly and sliced 1,500 of those pieces in midair. The last 300 were too small to catch and got away. If Yoriichi had been just a little faster, or if Muzan had panicked a second later, the entire series of Demon Slayer would have ended right there in that forest. That fight changed Muzan forever. From that day on, he never directly fought the Demon Slayer Corps again. He sent his demons to do it for him. He spent centuries hunting down anyone who used sun breathing because he was terrified another Yoriichi might be born. Even 1,000 years later, when he sees Tanjiro wearing the same earrings Yoriichi wore, he loses his composure. The strongest demon in the world, shaking at the sight of jewelry. That is what one man did to him. But the strangest part of his story is not the fight. It is what the world did to him after he won it. Before we move on, if you're enjoying this analysis, please consider subscribing. It helps the channel tremendously. The hero who was thrown out for almost saving everyone. You would think that almost killing the Demon King would make Yoriichi the most celebrated person in the Demon Slayer Corps, the closest anyone has ever come. The man who proved Muzan could bleed. That is not what happened. When he came back to headquarters and reported what had taken place, the other Slayers were furious with him. He had failed to finish Muzan. He had let a different demon named Tamayo escape during the fight because he sensed she had a kind heart. And on top of all of that, his own twin brother Michikatsu had been turned into the demon Kokushibo around the same time, and people blamed Yoriichi for not stopping it. So they banished him. The strongest demon slayer in history, the man who created their entire fighting system, the only person in 500 years who ever made Muzan run, was thrown out of the group he gave everything to. Some of them even demanded that he kill himself for the failure. The new leader of the Corps refused to allow that, but the damage was done. Yoriichi spent the rest of his life on the outside of the thing he built. He kept going for decades after that. He lived quietly. He carried the loss of his wife, who had been killed by a demon years before, and the loss of his unborn child, and the loss of his brother who had become the very thing he hated most. He had so much power and almost nobody to use it on. because Muzan was now too scared to come anywhere near him again. In the end, he died as an old man, in his 80s, just sitting down. His body finally gave out, and that was that. No final battle, no glory, just the strongest swordsman to ever live, slipping away alone. And yet the way the show treats his death is not the end of his story. Because of how badly he broke the power system of Demon Slayer, his shadow is still the biggest thing on the screen, even when he is not in it. The shadow he left on every fight in the show. Watch any major fight in Demon Slayer, and Yoriichi is somewhere in the room, even when nobody mentions him. When Tanjiro starts using Hinokami Kagura, the family dance his father taught him as a kid, that is sun breathing. The Kamado family has been carrying around Yoriichi's exact technique for hundreds of years without knowing what it really was. Tanjiro is using a watered-down memory of moves Yoriichi performed once in a kitchen for Tanjiro's ancestor Sumiyoshi, and that ancestor copied them as best he could and passed them down through his children. The most powerful weapon the hero of the show has access to is a 500-year-old gift from a man he has never met. When the Hashira mark starts showing up on the modern Hashira during the final battle, every one of them is unlocking a faded version of the thing Yoriichi was born wearing. When Tanjiro turns his sword red in the final fight against Muzan, that red blade is something Yoriichi did first. When the Slayers figure out they need to hit all of Muzan's hearts and brains to finish him, that information came from Yoriichi's discovery in the bamboo forest centuries earlier. Even the final plan to kill the Demon King is just the homework Yoriichi already did. There is a training doll in the series that was built to copy his sword skills. It has 6 arms and uses 108 different attacks at the same time. That is how many swords and moves it takes to even pretend to be him, and the doll is still nowhere near the real thing. 6 arms swinging at full speed cannot match what one of his hands could do. This is what it means to break a power system completely. It is not just being the strongest. Plenty of stories have a strongest character. It is being the source. Every rule the show has, Yoriichi either made it, broke it, or both. The breathing styles are his. The mark is his. The red blade is his. The knowledge of how Muzan's body works is his. The reason the Demon King hides from the Demon Slayers for 1,000 years is him. The reason the hero of the show has any chance at all in the final fight is him. And the saddest piece of all of this, the one thing the series quietly leaves sitting in the middle of his story, is that none of it was enough. He had every gift a person could be given. He invented a whole way of fighting. He built the ladder everyone else climbs. He came one breath away from saving the world 500 years early, and he still lost the people he loved, still got blamed for things that were not his fault, still died alone and forgotten by the group he created. Yoriichi did not break the power system of Demon Slayer because he wanted to be the best. He broke it because the world handed him more than any one person was supposed to hold, and then quietly asked him to carry it by himself for the rest of his life. That is who he really was, not just the strongest. The one the whole story is secretly about, even when he is not on the page. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.